What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 21 of the Gamefall podcast. John, you can still count these on your hands. I'm impressed.
Yes, I can. Quick note. We had a very small window between filming these podcasts, so we're still filming them on the same day. I fired up Diablo 3 for the Switch. It plays just like I remember the console version on the PlayStation 3.
4. We put it on the 4, didn't we?
On the 4. We played it on the 4. So it runs just fine. I'm excited to play more of it.
And because John mentioned this, we're filming these sort of back to back here. We're going to have another special one-off episode, sort of like what we did, episode 18, I believe it was. Maybe, somewhere in there, where we just kind of discussed, old games and, our kind of gaming memories and that sort of thing. But this time we're going to have a little bit more of a discussion. And this one, sort of maybe the great debate of the current gaming climate, and that is single player versus multiplayer. Now, we're not saying, you have to choose one or the other, but we're just going to sort of discuss the merits of both, our favorite single player, multiplayer experiences, what we look for out of, a multiplayer game, what we look for out of a single player game, what makes us want to play online, what makes, just sort of how we go about, the way we look at that sort of setup. And so I guess that kind of gets me to the first thing I wanted to talk about, which is, if you're talking about multiplayer games versus single player games, I know you and I both tend to lean towards single player games at the moment, but what is it about, what sort of things do you need out of a multiplayer game to get you hooked in? I guess, what do you need to get hooked, and then what's sort of been your favorite multiplayer experience?
So playing with a friend needs to be fun to get me hooked in. And then I'd say playing it in general needs to be fun, but there's a difference between multiplayer games where it's fun to play by yourself and it becomes irritating to play with your friends, with a group of your friends. So like Call of Duty is an example of that. It's okay to play by yourself online, like you don't get as frustrated, but then once you throw your friends in, it's like, oh, now I'm dragging the team down, so it becomes less fun.
Or you start comparing yourself to your teammates. Or you
compare yourself to your teammates, or you start having these ridiculous wars because one of your buddies from college said, hey John, first blood or first death, and I was standing behind him in Call of Duty, and I said first death, and he said I don't know, and I said I guarantee it, and then I shot him as soon as the timer came off because we were on hardcore, and he died, and from then on he was continually killing us for the rest of every match.
And then you drag in your other friend into it who really had no part to play in that initial opening salvo.
Yeah, and his favorite signature move was a concussion grenade
to the back of the head. Yeah. Yep. Memories.
Yeah.
For me, I get where you're coming from because, that there is that aspect of it, like where if I'm playing by myself, I'm usually pretty calm. I might just be like, ugh, like give an exasperated, but like when I'm playing with you, and it's like all of a sudden I have this sounding board where I can just be like, F this, F that, this is so effing stupid. I shot first, that dude should be dead, blah, blah, blah.
Why would they have this in there? Why do they allow that mechanic to be there? Why are people using this gun only? Why can't my gun shotgun, it should work better at close range?
I used that same gun. Why didn't it work for me? That sort of thing.
Literally every time.
Things you might wonder yourself quietly, but you wouldn't get that worked up. But all of a sudden, because you're saying them out loud to somebody else, you're just like, ah!
and then it just compounds itself, because then you get focused on like trying to like explain what you're doing, and then you get shot again, and then,
yeah. But like you said, it's got to be fun. And there's certain games where even if I'm doing terribly, I'm having fun. Like, I was never the greatest Halo player, a solid round for me, I just was aiming to be positive, to have a positive KD because, I wouldn't say I was terrible, like where I was below, 1 a ton, but, you know, it was like, it would be like a 0.8 or something like that. And so like, if I could get like to, you know, positive and stuff like that, and the way I tended to play was, you know, running guns blazing, so I died a lot because my specialty wasn't long range shots. It was, you know, getting up close and personal. My favorite move was to take the
empty the clip and give him
empty the clip, yeah, and then punch him in the face. That was the best way to take him down. Yeah. That was the most effective way for me to do it. So it was just, you know, having fun and stuff like that and doing, you know, things within it. For me, though, I'm not one, I don't necessarily play by myself online a lot. So, like, even like Halo or Call of Duty or Star Wars Battlefront or, you know, Battlefield, any of those games, I didn't tend to play those online by myself. It was mostly when I was playing with you or, you know, our other friends. That was when I played online. I wasn't, you know, I didn't do a whole lot solo just because it was like, well, what's the point? Especially like when my first real foray into sort of that online multiplayer was, you know, playing with my roommate and then you in college, you know, in my dorm room, where it's like I always had somebody with me, and you know, that kind of made it more fun, like, you know, doing that sort of thing.
Do you know what I liked about Halo 3?
What?
That, like, practically never gets done anymore.
Split screen?
Aside from the split screen. It took a rolling account of, like, the last 3 or 4 games that you actually played, and then put you in to a group of people that played at that same average level for the last 3 to 4 games.
Yeah, the whole thing, like, everybody, that you have to stick with that same party every game now. Whereas Halo was like, nope.
No, Halo 3, it killed your party. You had to ask to stay together. And then not mandatorily stay together. Yeah. You had to ask to stay together. And then it would just keep whoever wanted to stay together, kicked everyone else, and started searching for new players. It didn't drop you out. You didn't have to back out to do anything. Why? Why can't we have that again?
Well, and see, I guess, you know, we're talking a lot about the, you know, versus multiplayer, but there is another aspect to the multiplayer, you know, thing, and that's co-op, and that's something, I think, more in terms of what we look for in an online game is we want to be able to play that, you know, co-op, as opposed to, you know, necessarily versus all the time. And part of it's, too, with, like, the changing, you know, aspects of life and that sort of thing, because, you know, when we were first sort of really getting into the online multiplayer, it was, you know, in college when we had free time, we were able to, you know, invest time into those games and get decent at them. Never great, but decent.
Never great.
And now it's like...
Except for Bad Company 2. We weren't even great at that. I just feel like I was great. But I know I wasn't.
We were great when we were together. In Bad Company 2.
Yeah.
Not in Battlefield 3.
No. Specifically in the capture... It's not capture the flag, it was the base capture.
Yeah, that sort of
thing. There's like 3 bases, and yeah.
And that was because partly we chose classes, loadouts, whatever, that were complementary to each other.
I did the medic.
Yeah, medic, and then I was the resupply.
Yeah,
so we never ran out of ammo, and we could heal ourselves. So it was like, and we just usually find a spot where we could have a pretty wide view, and we just, you know, pick people up. That was when you could still, like, actually fully customize your loadouts in Battlefield. Because, you know, in Battlefield 3, when it changed, it's like, oh, if you're an ammo, you know, resupply guy, you could only have a light machine gun. If you're a medic, you could only have, like, a shotgun or something like that. And so it just kind of made things ridiculous. Whereas, you know, I tended to, you know, favor assault rifles, that sort of thing. Things where I could do short bursts, highly accurate. Because otherwise I'm a really terrible shot. I'm not a great sniper, not good at single shots, and I'm not great at... nobody's great at maintaining control on a long pulse. So I needed that pulse. Like, I had that down fairly good, and yeah, Battlefield 3, that didn't exist anymore. So it's just like, well...
Battlefield 3 sucked.
So we played Bad Company 2 a lot. And that was multiplayer, but that was still us working together. There was still a synergy there. But, you know, I think of how many times we played, you know, Halo, the campaign together, of Halo 3, and that sort of thing. And then, you know, I mean, even games like Destiny, when it first came out, and we were, before it ran into the ground, where we were doing the same thing over and over.
We did the first 2 raids for sure.
Over. A lot.
Yeah.
Usually didn't beat them.
all of us got a full set of armor for this one character, which took forever.
Yeah. Well, and we cheesed.
Oh, yeah.
Hard.
Everybody cheeses in Destiny. It's like the meta game.
Yeah.
To find the cheese.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't. We had people show us, and
but
eventually we got really good at it.
Yeah.
Too. Like, well.
I loved Vault of Glass. And watching Jordan fail.
Oh my gosh. So the funny thing is, like, you figure out how to, get something going, Vault of Glass, where, we had the start down and all that, but then all of a sudden my cousin joins us, who, he didn't play with us a whole lot, but he joined us occasionally, and so he did, and the rest of us knew how to time those jumps, and this was his first time, and literally his first time through
He just wanted us to experience it. He'd never done it.
It's his struggle, and he had the blink jump, so you can't really see where you're at. And the key was you needed to be able to see where you were going to land, so you could time the next jump.
The blink jump doesn't let you jump as far.
Right. Yeah.
And you needed to jump. You need to be able to jump as far as you possibly could. So we were trying to tell him to change his jump, and he's like, I'm okay."
It didn't end well. Eventually, he got down there.
He also made mistake number 2, which was to follow Josh, and Josh was just trolling him the whole time.
Yeah. Josh is not a great leader.
No.
In that sense.
Unless it's Monster Hunter. Then he's a very necessary component to winning.
Yeah, and I mean, that's an example of, a game most recently that we've played that, where we were playing together was Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World is amazing.
Spider-Man, that was a solo game. God of War, that was a solo game, and that sort of thing. So now it's gone from, more, at least in my mind, you can speak for yourself, but, I'm not picking up Call of Duty Black Ops 4 because I want a story and I want to be able to, I don't mind I enjoy the multiplayer versus thing, a decent amount, but I never play enough to, like, get to the max level. I don't play enough to, like, prestige. I usually find one weapon I like and I just prestige that weapon.
Yeah.
And, it's just sort of the way I play, and it's like, I can't remember I think maybe in all of the Call of Duty games that I've owned, which I guess would be Modern Warfare Modern Warfare was my first Call of Duty game that I purchased.
Yeah, minus a few.
Yeah, I mean, we skipped some, but that was the first one I purchased, and then we played that a lot. Modern Warfare 2 was the one we played by far the most.
Played 3 for a little bit.
Yeah, Ghosts we played a good amount, because that was the first one on the PS4.
Did you ever get Black Ops 1?
I did not, no.
Okay. I played that.
I played the campaign with you, I think.
Okay.
But I never purchased it. But I played Black Ops 2 and 3, Infinite Warfare.
I did not play 2. I played Infinite Warfare, I played 3, and I played Advanced Warfare. No, we didn't get Advanced Warfare.
No, we didn't. I enjoyed the multiplayer, but it's, it was never something I set out to do. I mean, you prestiged a couple of those.
In a couple of the games I prestiged.
But you were willing to play without me there. I didn't play unless you were online.
I'm always willing to get my feet wet. If I have a game and it has online, I will try the online.
I will
too. Just by myself. And then if I figure it out or I find a weapon I like, I'll just play it.
I need somebody to complain to and vent at.
Yeah, see, and I'm kind of, like, quiet and just sit there
for
the most part when I'm by myself. Like, I don't say anything at all. I just sit there and just play and try and figure out. And then when I'm by myself, if I get frustrated, I try and figure out how to do something different. When I'm with my friends and I get frustrated, I just do the same thing that keeps getting me killed over and over and over and over again, hoping it works. I don't know why my brain switches.
What's the definition of insanity?
Exactly what I just said.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So it's, that's the way it is, but now it's more because we have limited time, because we don't have as much time to sit down and play, multiplayer. And, and I still know plenty of people that's what they look to do, and I'm just like, if that's what floats your boat, that's what floats your boat. But for me to feel like I get my money's worth out of the game now, it's like I need some sort of story, some sort of, something narrative to make it feel worthwhile. And I enjoy having a multiplayer component with that. but I can't do
shorter, too,
exclusively multiplayer. Like, knowing that there's people out there that buy Call of Duty and never touch the campaign is just, like, infuriating.
I don't understand why you wouldn't touch the campaign. Like, the
campaign
campaign is there.
They were enjoyable,
like, the campaign's there to get you, like, prepped up for all the new stuff.
You actually learn how to use a lot of the stuff.
Use the new items that they've introduced for the multiplayer. You get kind of your, shake the dust off if you want. Like, I understand, like, not finishing the campaign, because some of the campaigns get really boring, and they have, never-ending, like, the closet monsters, is that what they call it? Where, like, or unlimited respawn on enemies, so you have to cross a threshold before they stop spawning. Call of Duty is notorious for that, and the only way you can beat, like, some of the higher difficulties is to run through the level so that it stops spawning the...
And then, essentially fight them as they...
So I think it was Modern Warfare 2, I distinctly remember sitting in a trench for 40 minutes expecting the enemies to stop so they could walk forward, and it never happened. And then I finally was like, I'm gonna run, and then I ran like 10 feet, and then they all like, it's just like cutscene. I was like, why?
Well, and part of it is the way you and I tend to play is we like and we've used it on this podcast before, and we like to hot gates.
Yeah.
We, draw the enemy out, and then we'll fall back to a point that's highly defensible where we're, relatively secure and can pick off our enemies as they come through. Mm-hmm. Whether that's a trench or an actual sort of narrowing corridor, it's kind of whatever, but that's the way we tend to play. And so if it's like infinite spawning, it's just like, good lord, like, I mean, it works well, it holds them off, but it's just, you're not going to make any progress that way. But... I guess that sort of stuff, it is what it is. Everybody plays their own way, but that wasn't necessarily the right way that they wanted you to play that one. But, I mean, in terms of multiplayer games, now, even though we don't play them a ton, I still have great memories playing. Like, I think, if we're to talk about our favorite multiplayer experience, I mean, I have to go with... as much as I enjoyed my first foray into the original Halo, even though it wasn't multiplayer online, it was multiplayer, System Link, which was a lot of fun. But I think, Halo 3 has to be tops in terms of my favorite multiplayer experience, just because, it was a lot of fun. And, I enjoyed playing it with my roommate, when it came out and stuff like that. But it was really when, you came down at the start of Christmas break, and we just sat there, I finished up my finals, and, we just sat there, and it was like snowing, we were essentially snowed in, and we just played it Halo 3 nonstop, and, it got pretty good, and then we're both like, okay, we need to get an Xbox and this game and keep playing.
Yeah, get this. Oh my gosh, Halo 3 is so good. I don't know, Halo 2 was like fun. I think I've told this story before, but I had the Xbox and Halo 2, and one of my friends had a friend that didn't have Halo 2 but had Xbox Live. I don't know how you'd have Xbox Live and not Halo 2. But anyway.
That was a weird thing back then.
That kid also was way into World of Warcraft, so Halo 2 wasn't like high on his list, I guess. So,
World of Warcraft. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I brought my Xbox and my Halo 2, and he brought the memory card that he had put his Xbox Live tag on. Stuck it in my controller.
Oh yeah, I remember when we had to do that. I actually had memory cards to...
And we had to play it. And I thought it was so cool that the memory card slot was on the controller.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember that. I'm like, oh, and it wasn't just one. There was like 2 memory card slots. I was like, this is amazing. Now you don't need any of that crap.
Well, and then even with the 360, the ability to
hot
swap hard drives and be able to. When we were finally able to put our profiles on like memory cards or USBs, like then I did that all the time. Because John's a homebody. He doesn't like to leave his house.
No.
So I was always the one to go over to John's, and so I'd put all my profile and stuff right before I left on the memory card or the USB, and then come over and like just throw it in yours, and then we could play. And like any single player game too, where it's like, okay, I got to show John where I'm at, I'd throw that data on there as well and be able to show you. That was before we had to like install games on our hard drives.
I don't even know why they had a memory card slot on the original Xbox, because the hard drive never ran out of memory on that thing.
No, that thing was huge. Well, and there wasn't anything really to take up that space. Other than
you
save
always
files.
had 50,000 plus blocks of save files.
I guess there were people that put media on the Xbox, but I was never one of those
I
people.
don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, you would have had to, like...
Oh, no, I did put music on there.
Really?
For Tony Hawk.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you had the music in the hard drive, it would let you play the music from, like, your music.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I only had, like, 3 CDs on there, and it didn't take up anything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, who knows how much that 50,000 blocks was.
No.
I never 50,000 plus.
Yeah.
So it was...
Obscene.
Yeah, I played a couple rounds of Halo 2 on Xbox Live when it first came out. My neighbor had it, and he was trying to convince me to get it. And I remember I went and asked my parents, I was like, can I get Xbox Live so I can play Halo 2 online? Mm-hmm. And they're like, hell no.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No
my
way.
parents would have said that too.
No way. And so eventually I was able to... I didn't get, any online play until the 360.
That was my first, like, giant chunk of online play.
But I remember I had to... Because of the way my house was at the time, I played in the basement and our router was over by the computer. And so I had to get another Ethernet switch, wired router.
Oh, another.
And then so I kind of had to daisy chain it in order to get it over to where my Xbox 360 was.
That's funny.
But then eventually I was able to buy the wireless adapter.
Yeah.
For the 360, and then... after that,
I bit the bullet and bought a 50-foot Ethernet cord.
Yeah, which I should have done, but then eventually I was able to hook up my Xbox to the computer monitor in the basement. So I was able to have it right by the computer, and then I hardwired it in. It was way faster.
Because that computer had actual speakers on the monitor.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And an HDMI in, so...
That was a good monitor.
Still got it.
It's an HP.
Mm-hmm. It's solid. And it's still, it's still a good monitor, but I haven't used it for that in a long time, obviously.
I think one of my favorites was Left 4 Dead 1.
Oh, yeah, that was a great one.
That was really good.
That was one, I mean, there was a little bit of narrative, but there wasn't much. It was just kind of like, okay,
here's the reason to get from point A to point B.
You're Left 4 Dead, and it's
Go.
like, yeah, you got to get out.
Get to the extraction point.
But just there was only, 4 stages?
4 scenarios.
Scenarios, yeah, whatever. But it was like...
Oh, they had the movie film cover for what you picked. So good. So good.
But just, trying different ways and, trying to sneak sometimes and trying to, go loud other times, playing on different difficulties.
Pistol akimbo.
Yeah, that was your thing.
Josh and I were, unstoppable with akimbo pistols.
These were all in college, too, so it was when we had time.
And that game had split screen. I think another thing that makes multiplayer good is if you have split screen. Because if you can have someone at your house, that just makes it better.
Yeah.
Multiplayer is great online when you can't have the person over. But when they do come over, having the split screen so you can still play online with people that aren't over. Because, people have more than one friend most of the time. Or at least more than one friend now that knows how to play a game. Most of the time.
Yeah.
So, that makes things funner. And Xbox was great at that for a long time. And then Halo 5 came out. And I don't understand anything of what they decided to do. But apparently enough of us didn't buy an Xbox because they said every Halo will have split screen from now on.
Got to put that back in.
They're like, whoa, apparently we left something seriously wrong because we should have retained all of these people. I mean, they went from Xbox to 360. They should have gone, and they're like, oh, yeah, we pulled split screen.
And I mean, split screen was a big reason why I was able to... Or why I was convinced to switch, because to, the 360, because I was able to play Halo 3 with my roommate, and was like, because, I loved the first 2 Halos, but I was like, I don't know if I want a 360, because like I said, I hadn't played online, and that was obviously a big thing with the 360, was the ability to play online, the ramping up of Xbox Live, and that sort of thing, so it was like, I wasn't sure. I bought the Wii, I thought that was cool, played Zelda a lot.
We was great at the beginning, and that kind of burned us in the end. So we got gun shy of buying new things.
Well, and, then I was like, okay, 360 is where it's at and stuff like that. And, didn't really see what was so great about PlayStation 3. And there really wasn't initially.
There was nothing. Everything good on PlayStation 3 came at the end.
Yeah. And that's when we kind of switched over. And then it was like PS4 all the way because of the decisions Microsoft made. But we're kind of getting off track here from our multiplayer discussion. But
segue nicely into single player because PlayStation had been nailing single player games.
Mm-hmm. And that was a big part of it. I mean, well, and then it was single player games that we started playing together, like Resistance, the split screen on Resistance.
Oh my god.
Split screen co-op. And that was sort of more when we started to change to more of a narrative tone as opposed to...
I loved the random, just token black guy that the second player was relegated to play.
Me, because it was your console, your game.
Or African American, if you want to be more politically correct. But it was just funny.
Generic, never referenced once.
Yeah, he didn't even have a story. He was just there. He just got thrown in, and no one ever acknowledged him.
He had no name,
so mean.
No name, never acknowledged. He was just there. Poor guy.
It would have made more sense to just have a carbon copy clone like they did for Master Chief. 4 Master Chiefs. That didn't make sense either, but no one cared.
Yeah. Not everything was as forward-thinking as Gears of War, where you actually had 2 characters.
Oh, that was so good. I loved Gears of War.
And I haven't played a Gears game since 3, rather. Gears 3.
That's where I stopped.
The end of the original trilogy.
It was a good game. Wrapped it up nicely.
It was. Now there's more games.
Mm-hmm.
Games Pass. I'll sign up for it someday. But I need to get a second controller so you can join in. What have I needed a second controller for? I lived in another state. My roommate had one.
No reason. So, basically, only having one controller means you pretty much can't do split screen. So, you're probably just playing single player games on your Xbox. So, what kind of single player game stuff makes you excited to play a game?
I mean, it's all about story. If you're going to play it by yourself, you need something to immerse you into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Multiplayer is a different appeal. You're playing with other people. It's a competition. But single player, you need something different. You're not necessarily competing. I mean, I play sports games. Not as much as I used to. I used to play a ton of sports games. Not much anymore.
I mean, I play sports games. Sorry, I thought it was funny. It's
I own NBA 2K18, which is terrible. Which is why that was the last one I bought. I wasn't gonna buy 19 because 18 was terrible. Or whatever, 17, 18.
I guess
I know you don't see the appeal. I'm saying, the sports games were fun, but eventually got to the point where it's I need a little bit more out of it. I'm all for competing and that sort of thing. In sports games, I was mostly competing against the computer. Some online play, but eventually it's okay, I need a little bit more. I need a story. I need something that's going to hook me in.
Did that even have a story? Weren't you supposed to be an amateur college player? Yeah. That didn't even do it for you?
Well, it wasn't a real story. It was
just cutscenes on top of regular gameplay?
Yeah, essentially.
Well, that's not a story. What the heck? Mix it up, people.
I mean, there's, a progression to it, but... I wanted more narrative and something I could really sink my teeth into.
They should have gone full on Thug, Tony Hawk's Underground on the football thing. Actually actually have an apartment. Actually walk around the college campus you picked.
Well, okay, there wasn't that, but one of the NCAA football games where you did have a dorm room with different things in it, but it was more just a click on a different
adventure.
Thing. Yeah. No. And it's you just got messages. That was the way the narrative was driven. I mean, I know there's been some story mode stuff in recent Maddens, but I hate Madden. For the football games, NCAA football was king, and then when it stopped, I was I bought Madden 25, and it just didn't do anything for me. My roommate had other Maddens, more recent ones. I played them, and it just didn't do anything for me. Moral of the story is, I need stories, and games like Mass Effect, helped kind of get me there in terms of, more narrative.
RPGs
Assassin's Creed.
Very well to single player.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed was another one. I kind of played on my, interest in history and stuff like that.
Action adventure-ish.
Yeah. Games like that. I mean, I always loved Zelda. That was a good one.
Zelda's great.
Mario, I mean, it's a very loose story. More of a general premise. Super Mario 64.
The thing about Mario that I always liked was, like, the levels.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, but at least it had, like, a little narrative. So, I've always liked that, but it was definitely more and more getting that way. Like, I loved Banjo-Kazooie on the N64. Mm-hmm. I know you never beat it, which is...
I got to the last fight.
I know. But this is... Man. The last fight... I guess I shouldn't be one to talk because I haven't beaten Wolfenstein 2 yet.
This is the same guy who played Dark Sector, got literally 10 minutes from finishing. I was actually at the, like, threshold of getting to the part where you do, like, the last fight, and I was like, I'm out. And I was actually good at that game by that point because I'd played it in, like, 3 days, and so, like, I knew, like, all the moves you had to do to, like, dodge things and not die, and Kenny was, like, so excited. He's like, oh my, yes! Oh, that was beautiful! Perfect execution! Because he loves tearing games apart and just finding all the things that make them tick. And so he thought, and then he was, like, disgusted with the fact that I had stopped playing that game.
Yeah.
I was over it.
But, that game, I didn't think I appreciated it as much as I did when I played it through when we got the copy on the 360.
That was a good game for its time.
Yeah. It's solid. And that was kind of fun, like, when I borrowed your Switch while you were gone that one day. I was watching your house, and I played a little bit of ukulele. I felt a lot of that, like, okay.
It's classic Banjo.
Yeah, just different skin, different story. So many similarities, but yeah, I need that narrative, someone to take me out of the real world where I have to pay bills, I have to work, especially, when I was living, in a different state, away from my friends and working weird hours, so I couldn't really socialize over there other than with people who worked in the same field as me. Because guess what? If you're a sports reporter, the only people you can hang out with are other sports reporters.
Because it's basically your life.
Because we all work the same hours at the same days off. So, and you work a lot of hours, and so it's just like camaraderie. At least we're all in it together. But so then it's like, okay, what am I doing in the majority of my game playing? Well, I don't get off work until 10:30, 11. And by then, everybody who works normal hours is going to bed.
And only the crazy people who are too good at multiplayer games stay up and play.
Yeah, that was a very big issue. Or I'm playing first thing in the morning when everybody else is at work. So it was more like, okay, I need to get into more single-player narratives in order to, maximize my enjoyment. And so... that's sort of what shifted it for me, was when I started, when I was away from my friends and, we all started working, or, you guys graduated before I did because I did the nice, 6-year plan for college and, with a couple years off in there, hey, I got it done. You take time off, you live in a foreign country for a year, you do things like that.
You do you, man. As my favorite hateful saying. I hate that saying.
Which I say to you all the time because I know it annoys you.
Oh my gosh.
You do you, man.
No shit. Obviously I'm doing me. How can I not do me?
So, anyway.
It's like saying the sun is hot.
I mean, you want to talk about going back to the classics. When I was living in England, you guys were all playing Monster Hunter, and I'm just hanging out in the Skype, on the weekends.
Next turn.
And I'm playing an N64 emulator. Because I bought
getting them stars.
A USB.
Super Mario 64.
I bought a USB Xbox 360 controller.
Yep.
And hooked it up to the emulator.
Forever to remap the buttons.
Oh my gosh! Every time I started up a new game, I had to remap all the buttons and stuff like that. I still have it. I still have that old laptop, and I still have the emulator on it.
That's hilarious.
Just for I don't think I can get rid of it just for nostalgia's sake. I got a lot of classic games on there. Not all of them run perfectly.
That's an emulator for you.
Yeah, But they ran well enough where I could get enjoyment out of them. I played a lot of San Francisco Rush 2049.
Nope. Not ringing a bell.
Missing out, man. It's quality stuff. You had little wings you could pop out to kind of glide.
That's cool.
That's how you got to the shortcuts. A lot of the time, you had to glide to them.
The cool kids were playing Jet Force Gemini with the rocket pack on the dog.
But yeah, so that was like, obviously I couldn't play multiplayer on an emulator, so I kind of got back into those old games. I got to play Banjo-Kazooie again. I got to play Super Mario 64 again. Those classic games, and so it was fun to go back and do those. And then by the time I came back, I was kind of over the multiplayer, the need to do multiplayer. And that's when I started shifting, and games like the Mass Effect series, games like Assassin's Creed kind of reinforced that. Uncharted, yes, great.
Also
great. Which
true.
I literally borrowed your entire PlayStation 3 to play the first two.
Yeah.
Because Uncharted 3 I purchased for myself, but 1 and 2 was you. I purchased all 3 when I bought my own PS4.
Yeah.
I got just used
Nathan Drake
copies.
collection is nice.
Oh yeah, and then the Nathan Drake collection on the PS4 is fantastic. The only thing it's missing is 4, but I own that as well.
PS4. Uncharted 4 is a
So,
masterpiece.
that was sort of what reinforced it for me. So for you, for me, that was sort of my journey towards single player. What was sort of your catalyst?
For single player?
Yeah, like what made you kind of shift from more multiplayer based games to more single player based games?
Well, I originally started with single player because I grew up on a farm and I was the only boy. And nobody else liked video games.
2 older sisters.
Mm-hmm. And my cousins had a Sega, but they had a Sega, so obviously they didn't like video games because it was a Sega.
Hey, there's some classics on Sega.
And I had a
Mortal Kombat,
Sonic. That's it. There you go. You could stop there.
Those were really the only ones. I had my grandparents' neighbor had a kid who was just a year or 2 older than me, and he had a Sega, so I'd go over there and play.
I would play Sonic all the time when I went over there. They'd be outside, I'd be inside playing Sonic, up in the attic where their room was.
And that's why John's so ghostly white.
Hey man, stay out of the sun. Stay out, stay alive.
John's not gonna get melanoma.
I hope, jeez.
Whatever.
So...
At least not from that.
And I grew up on Nintendo, so, playing Pokemon was huge. Zelda was big for me. One of my favorites, period, Majora's Mask. Also Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess, because they're all so unique to their own way. Like, Twilight Princess is, very dark. Majora's Mask is also dark, but it deals more with death. Twilight Princess deals more with, entire world, destroying itself.
Oppression and
other dark themes, and then Breath of the Wild is just so open in how you want to approach it. It's crazy. The story not as open, but how you get to experiencing the story is open.
You're not taking on a really rigid path, right?
Right. So story's big, gameplay is big for me. I like feeling progression, and by feeling progression I mean not just the story's moving, but I'm getting better. I can see how I'm getting better. So RPGs are great for that because you get the level tick, and that just sends something off in my brain. It's just oh, this is so good, I want to get another level. But then you can go back to other areas and see the enemy that took you a hard time to kill. Just walk over and
take them out.
One hit. That's satisfying. Then I shifted when I moved into the city, I shifted into multiplayer games because I had friends that liked to play. And so split screen became really big for me, so I would look for games that had split screen.
Well, especially you moved into the city, but you still didn't have, internet.
I didn't have internet, so I looked for games that had split screen. And then when we had internet, when I got into college, I looked for games that had multiplayer online. And then, I graduated, I have a wife who's awesome, and that takes up a lot of time, job and family and wife, and so multiplayer is hard to do with people when they don't come to your house or live in the same city. So single player started shifting back, and so with those, it was like, I need something that's easy.
Well, and then I guess there's also, I mean, you talk about graduation, and it's like, okay, all of a sudden you're here, and you have other friends, you know, spread out. Everything's, nobody's in the same city anymore. You and I are the only ones here.
Yeah. Which I'm very fortunate that that's the case.
Well, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back, yeah. It sucked when you were away, but I'm glad you're back now. So I started looking for ones, as you said, had a narrative, but I also liked fun gameplay like Ratchet and Clank. You collect items, you level up each item, you can replay the story as many times as you want and continue to level up those items. Don't know why other games don't do that.
Because then Ratchet and Clank wouldn't be as special, Brian.
Okay, I'm just going to call it Insomniac Syndrome. It's great. I think everyone should do it. Insomniac's like the best independent developer that like never gets credit for anything. Like Bethesda gets credit for the stuff it does. Insomniac's like, oh, it's a good game. I like these things. And that's where it ends.
They kind of hit the jackpot with Spider-Man. That's pretty universally. I mean, that was a huge one.
Like, I'm so glad people are like giving them credit now. I find it weird that it takes Spider-Man to give them credit when Ratchet and Clank's like amazing.
But I can see how Ratchet and Clank appeals to more of a niche audience. You know,
I'd say it appeals generically to kids, in general, and then anyone that.
But it's got that brand of humor.
Yeah, anyone that grew up playing Banjo-Kazooie or games like Spyro, which had kind of crudish humor, like funny, childish humor. So, like with poop jokes and all that sort of stuff.
Toilet humor.
So good. And yeah, escapism. I mean, that's part of the reason I played games to begin with. I was bored. I wanted something to do. I didn't want to get in trouble. So
especially in the winters when, you know, there's not much you can do in this part of the country outside.
And building rockets just gets boring after a while.
Never really did that. I did a couple times.
See, I lived on a farm, so I could literally build a rocket, tell my mom, hey, I'm going outside to launch it, and it's just fine. Can't do that.
She's like, have fun.
Yeah. And I'd get to watch it, and then I'd have to run through the field to find where it landed, and then it broke, so I gotta go back in the house and rebuild it, and then take it back outside.
Yeah, see, I lived in the neighborhood, so it's like if I did that and it landed in somebody's yard, you know, we'd get in trouble. There was a lady that lived a few houses down from us that was just a complete and total just jerk to us kids. Like, got mad at us for playing in my neighbor's backyard, being too loud and stuff like that, in the middle of summer during the day. Mm-hmm. It's just like, come on, lady, get over yourself. I don't know if she still lives there or not, but she was the worst.
I know. They're kids. They get bored. The worst thing that happens is some of their toys landed in your backyard.
Oh, we didn't even do that, really. A couple times, but most of the time we...
Just toss it back over.
Yeah, well, most of the time we played in another yard if we were going to play baseball or football or any, you know, thing like that. There was better yards for that, but it's just like, come on. But... You know, I guess, so I mean, that progression, that change has come sort of with age and responsibilities as well as, you know, just a time and availability to get into them.
So what do you feel like needs to be in a multiplayer game for it to be good?
Now?
As far as, like, for final thoughts, for wrapping up the whole...
Now, you know... Before it was just like, you know, ability to play with my friends and, you know, not completely suck. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, not completely sucking is still a pretty big one for me. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody enjoys getting their ass kicked constantly, but...
So fair.
Yeah, so Battlefront was awful. Because it was so unbalanced. Call of Duty for a while was so unbalanced.
The EA Battlefront.
Yeah. The original Battlefront. You know, both, you know, and it's, so, I mean, not sucking, you know, balance, but it has to be one that I can pick up fairly quickly, not require a lot of time to get decent at, just because I don't have the time that I used to. Mm-hmm. So it has to, you know, kind of get into that high enjoyment factor pretty quick.
Right.
Not a steep learning curve. I guess those are the things I'd look for now. In terms of competitive multiplayer,
Okay.
in terms of other multiplayer, I mean, just being able to, do a story with a friend. Not every game needs to have it. Like Spider-Man, I don't need to have that be co-op. I mean, maybe your buddy could play as Miles Morales. I don't know.
That would be cool.
It'd be interesting, but is that necessary?
No.
No. So, but for certain games like Halo, yes. Gears of War, yes.
If you have a first-person shooter, it should just have split screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Or online cooperative play.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I look for now out of a multiplayer game. Either the ability to play with my friends or be able to jump in and be decent at the competitive multiplayer fairly quickly. I'm not saying I have to be a master quickly. Just be able to hold my own fairly quickly.
So for me, you need to have balance in your game. You can't have items that break the balance. So...
No OP stuff.
None of this attaching legendary crap to your multiplayer weapon. It's you have the scope or you don't have the scope. You don't have a legendary version of the scope that's better than this other person's version of the scope. Either the scope's there or it's not there, period. It needs to be fun while you're playing. So, like, I guess fun I would say is, like, you're not getting your ass handed to you the whole time.
Competitive balance.
For co-op, it needs to be enjoyable co-op. So, like, it's a good challenge, but it's not hard, and it's not easy. And then...
or give us something to do like Halo 3 with our Grunt birthday party.
Yeah, have some fun, silly thing, or have a metagame like in Halo 3, the point system in single player.
Well, that was sort of the fun of the Grunt birthday party.
Yeah.
With that metagame, that point system,
headshots were worth more, so we
put Grunt and then all of a sudden, Grunt birthday party, you hear when you get those headshots. Yeah. And so eventually, we got it down so much it was just constantly, you go boop, 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 boop. Yay!
We even stopped picking levels that had the least amount of grunts in them.
Yeah, just grunt levels. If there was a way we could have only fought grunts, we would have.
That would have been amazing. That should be a mode.
Yeah.
Right there. There you go.
4-4-3. Make it happen.
Things that you look for in a single player game.
Just a very compelling narrative. A well-told story with great pace, with good pacing and enjoyable gameplay. Like, nothing too crazy, hard to master. So a good story with strong gameplay, which I think anybody would look for. But above all else, solid gameplay. I can sacrifice a little bit of story. Mm-hmm. But for it to be truly great, it needs to have both of those elements of gameplay and narrative.
Gameplay, for me, needs to be fluid, make sense, and rewarding. So, story, if you have a story in the game, that's very welcome for me, but it has to make sense. It has to be consistent. So, when I find a game going, oh man, really cool, hey, let's wait, do stuff over here, oh, go do that. Like, no. Either keep a steady rise, have some, shock drops, as in, like, the story has, like, a, oh, shit moment. I didn't know that happened. But not like a, alright, we're gonna kill the entire momentum of the story right here. I don't like grinding.
No. Nobody does.
Especially if the gameplay is not fun. I really hate grinding. And then if it's like an RPG, your leveling system needs to be consistent. So you need to be getting your levels at a easy pace. I should be leveling every time I pick up the controller. So every play session, until I hit max level, I should have a chance to level up within that hour of play. I think that that's fair. Collectibles, they could just be random collectibles. They could be...
Don't do too many, though.
Yeah. Collectibles need to be limited to like 100 at the most.
Yeah. In
any game. Ubisoft, I'm looking at you specifically. You have like 8 different versions of collectibles and they all have over 150. It's insane. Collectibles could be weapons that you actually use in the game. So Ratchet and Clank, perfect example. There's weapons. You collect them. you level them up. That's like everything I like right there. There's not a lot of weapons, so they're all real special. They all have their own purpose. So things I guess in the single player game have to have a reason, and they can't just be like there just to be there
too.
Yeah. So like Titanfall 2, that was really good. Everything was in there for a reason. Even the like training level, and the training level had a trophy that took me 5 hours to get the first time, and another hour and a half to get for Kyle. But it was attainable. At least for me. For some people, it's probably not ever going to be attainable. Cause
it only took an hour and a half because I insisted on continuing to try as well.
Yeah. And then I was like, no, I'm almost there. I got it. Just let me get it. And then it popped, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess in our final thoughts, we still enjoy multiplayer aspects of games, but it's not what we're looking for exclusively anymore. Like, when I bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare, I didn't buy it for the story. I bought it for the multiplayer with my friends. Mm-hmm. Initially. And same with Modern Warfare 2. It's just kind of like, whatever. I mean, to me, initially, but now it's, more story-driven. And we don't necessarily, look down on anybody that, prefers multiplayer over anything else, but...
I just don't understand why you narrow yourself to just multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, there's some incredible experiences out there for multiplayer, for both. But it's like, if you narrow yourself to just one, you're obviously going to miss out. So, occasionally in a multiplayer game I'll pick up just, because I want to experience it and that sort of thing. And that's, what happens with certain for certain, like, Call of Duty games or Halo or, anything like that. So, yeah, we enjoy both. We're not going to necessarily, cut ourselves off, but, our time is limited, so we tend to favor single-player games that,
I feel like they have more to offer someone who has a limited time.
Yeah. Whereas, otherwise you're just kind of ripping through multiplayer matches. And
multiplayer is pretty much what you're going to get. It's like getting a Subway sandwich. It's the same experience every time you play. Single player, it's kind of like, oh, I'm trying something new on the menu. You might like it, you might hate it.
Yeah. So ultimately, each has their own, value, and, each has their moment.
You're not wrong for liking one over the other.
Yeah, and there's really no battle per se. It's just the debate between, what we focus on and stuff like that, and what game developers, need to recognize that there's both sides. Like, really disappointed that there's no single player in the new Call of Duty. Might have bought it, purchased it, if there was a campaign to go with the multiplayer.
Zombie campaigns don't count as single player.
Real campaigns.
That's a co-op multiplayer experience.
A real single player campaign. Or a multiplayer campaign.
Yeah.
But a real campaign, not some zombie mode campaign. Mm-hmm. So that'll wrap things up here for episode 21 of the Gamefall podcast. For the man sitting to my right, he's John McVeigh.
For this guy sitting to my left, he's Kyle Sherman.
We'll see you next time.
That's a Dishman dodge. First down.
I don't know why John just did that.